You're listening to The Weather Junkies.
Oh boy.
Large wedge tornado coming up into Tuscaloosa.
A winter storm warning is in effect for our area.
So we can expect at least another 2 to 4 inches overnight. Then that snow's
The National Weather Service in Huntsville has issued a tornado warning for northwestern Massachusetts.
14 to 22 inches of snow!
Good Thursday evening, and thank you for joining us on the Weather Junkies. I am Tyler Jankowski, joining the show from Seattle, alongside Dakota Smith, who's in Colorado. Dakota?
Hey, Tyler. Hey, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's a stormy, showery day in Colorado. Nothing severe along the Front Range. There are some stronger storms out in the plains. And it's been warm this week. We hit 90 on Tuesday, I think, and then it's been in the mid to upper 80s the past 2 days, and I think that trend's going to continue for the next few days. But hopefully we get a cool down. I actually haven't looked very far into the future out here. But it's normal summer weather. Would like to get some more precip because it's been a while. Tyler, how's the weather in upstate New York?
Did you not hear that I said I'm in Seattle?
Oh, you're in what?
I'm not in Seattle, but it's pouring rain, and the temperature is 63 degrees.
Wow.
And the rain just doesn't seem to stop. This is just stratiform rain, as we would call it. There's no thunder. It's just widespread rain. But it seems like every day we have showers or thunderstorms, and people are starting to notice. So they are wondering when summer is going to begin. At least for us, it looks like July 4th is going to be beautiful. I know it's still a few days out, but this rain is relentless, and I just ran out to get some food, and it was pouring. So it's like Seattle. But no, I'm in the Champlain Valley, and that's how the weather is.
Did you really say you were in Seattle in the beginning?
I did. You must have been asleep.
I am exhausted, so yeah, I totally missed that. Before we go into trending with the Weatherverse, and before we talk about our main topic, I had a avid fan, my father. He called me the other day after last week's show, and he told me I forgot to introduce one of our guests. And I was like, what? How could I forget to introduce a guest? And he was talking about my dog, because apparently my dog barked at one point, and he could hear it. And I'm assuming others could as well. I thought my mic was muted, but I guess not. And so, yeah, I should introduce my dog. Obviously, you're not going to be able to hear her or see her, really. But we just got a puppy, my girlfriend and I, 4-month-old black lab mix. Her name is Murphy. She's a great dog, very loving, pretty calm for a puppy, and pretty well mannered for a puppy too. She's kind of scared of everything. I think she's been through a lot of moving. She came all the way from Texas from an overflow humane society. In Colorado, the humane societies aren't that stocked up because people are very pet friendly out here, and they go quickly. So if there's an overflow humane society in a different state, they come over to Colorado. So that's what she did. And we picked her up 3 weeks ago and have had her ever since. And we really like it. So,
well, are you going to introduce the rest of the family?
The cat and the girlfriend.
Well, cat and cats, visiting cats.
So actually I'm glad you asked. Actually, we got rid of, or didn't get rid of, but our friend picked up his cat, who we had since February. And so I have a cat named Ray, named after Duratio, because we're weather nerds, and they're best friends. But my friend moved to Germany and needed someone to watch his cat. I've actually been watching it since February.
Wow.
Don't tell any of our landlords that, because we never told them that we had another cat. Hopefully they don't listen to the show. But yeah, and then Abby, obviously my girlfriend, who's a PhD student in out here. So
can't forget her.
There you go, Tyler. The whole family has been introduced.
All right, now we can move on to tweets.
Yeah. So tonight we're actually our interview is pre-recorded with Dr. Melissa Burt talking about Science-A-Thon and the Earth Science Women's Network. So we'll do tweets now and get to that after that. I'll start off here with kind of a tweet that it's a Colorado tweet, just because something that was on my mind this week. It comes from Chris Spears, who is a meteorologist at CBS4 in Denver. His tweet says, there are a few storms trying to pop east of Denver, but as of 2:57 p.m., there are no severe watches or warnings in Colorado. No was in capitalization. And to the eye, anyone that wasn't following Twitter that day, just like, okay, yeah, he's just telling us there aren't any warnings or watches. But there was actually a problem that day. I guess it was just yesterday. There was a problem where a local meteorologist, on-air meteorologist, for a different TV station in Denver, his feed was all messed up, and he was auto-tweeting all these tornado warnings throughout Colorado. Yeah, it was going on all day from the morning to the afternoon. And the thing about it, he tweeted out a few times while he was giving out all these warnings. There are about a dozen of them, and some from major population centers like Denver. He hadn't deleted any of them, so they were up for hours and hours and hours. He did tweet out his account had been not hacked, but I guess there was something going wrong with the automation. But it was crazy. He didn't delete them until I told him to. I said, hey, you should just delete these because it's pretty easy to delete them. Tyler, I was going to ask you, do you have any sort of automation on your Twitter account, and what are some of the concerns about automation?
So on my Twitter account at Tyler Jankowski, I do not have any automation whatsoever. There is another account that I have through the television station that is featuring a lot of automation. It doesn't automatically tweet watches and warnings, but it does automatically tweet a lot of things. And that naturally the concern with that, which is different from this situation, but the concern is if someone is able to get into the automation software, they could basically send out whatever they want to send out. And certainly the concern is bad information or old information going out. A little bit less of a concern if you're not talking about watches or warnings, but certainly if things get hung up or jammed up, a lot of things will spit out after the fact. And with weather information, that's bad. But I do know that there are a lot of options for automatically tweeting warnings and watches. One of them is from the weather company, the Mac software that most TV stations use. And generally, I think it works pretty well. But like I said, when things get hung up and then unhung up, a lot of things get spit out when things are fixed. And if you're not attentive enough, that might sit around for a while. I think the only excuse for not deleting something right away, maybe if you're on vacation and you don't have service, or if you're trying to ignore your phone, perhaps if you're on a hot date or something. but generally I'm okay with automation, because more often than not, well, let me say this, I'm okay on some accounts, not on others.
Yeah,
I don't like automation on my own account. For watches and warnings, in some cases it makes it easier, because if you're covering stuff on TV, you just don't have time to tweet everyone, so that's helpful. But when something gets screwed up, generally I'm comfortable enough, I feel like I'm in tune enough to clean up a mess before it gets too big.
Yeah, I don't know what the hesitation was in this point, because he was on Twitter the whole day. I guess he just didn't think that it was a good idea. It got so bad, though, the National Weather Service in Boulder issued a statement that said there are no tornado warnings at this time.
Wow, I missed the whole thing. I don't know how I did.
Yeah, you probably don't follow him because he's a Denver guy. But
what day was it?
It was just yesterday.
I had a long drive yesterday, and then I worked.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and there was active weather in the evening, but at the time there wasn't. So that was one good part. Because if there was an active weather day, then that would have been a mess. We had a funny comment here from Twitter from JP Kaub on Twitter. You can follow him at WXJP2NYY. He said, I believe it was Russia behind the fake weather tweets. You never know, JP. You never know. So we'll move on from that to another tweet from Matt Zuro on Twitter. You can follow him at Illinois Wedges. His tweet just says simply Iowa. And that's referring to a severe weather, not outbreak, but event that happened yesterday throughout mainly in Iowa, but there was also a lot in northern Missouri, some in Nebraska, and parts of Michigan and Illinois. But the tornadoes were there were a bunch of tornado reports. Looking at the Storm Prediction Center official report, there were 29 tornado reports, 66 wind reports, and 40 hail reports. That's a lot of tornado reports. Tyler, were you following this? There are a lot of really picturesque tornadoes.
I saw that there was a lot of warnings, and I do have a friend that lives in Iowa or is from Iowa, so I was sort of paying attention to where the storms were. What were they unexpected?
Not entirely. No. It wasn't. It was I think like a 2 or 5% risk from the Storm Prediction Center. It definitely overachieved than the forecast, but there were still chances, and there were chasers out there because they knew there was a possibility. I know a lot of chasers were a little upset they didn't go out, but that's part of it. I think there was some damage, unfortunately, in Iowa. I mean, with that many tornadoes, you're bound to one's going to hit a town or something. But
our next tweet comes from Weather Underground at Wonderground, and they are tweeting out a new type of forecast model aims to predict storm scale weather across the planet with the help from IBM supercomputing. There's an image attached to the tweet that looks very complex and advanced. This is interesting. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, so they attached an article to it, and I read the article, and basically they're proposing to use next generation supercomputers to basically do mesoscale forecasting on a global level of thunderstorms. So they kind of bring up the fact that the high resolution models like the HRRR is only run in small areas and small sectors, but over many time steps, it's every hour right now. But the global models like the GFS, Global Forecasting System, I think, and the Euro model are the whole globe, but they're only every 6 hours. So they want to do like the HER, but every hour globally. And they can't do that now because of computing issues. There's not enough computing power.
This is another tweet in the bag of operational meteorologists should be concerned.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think in the beginning it'll be human meteorologists will definitely need to be like using this data and looking at it. But so the thing about this is I feel like I see an article like this from IBM like every few months, but I never see like a result. Yeah, what's up? Is there a result? Are we just not seeing it? Is it not public? I don't know.
Well,
I tried to get someone on the show, but I don't think they wouldn't come on.
Well, that's telling, maybe. Well, I can tell you that the graphic system that a lot of TV stations use is going to have a new feature soon where you can automatically tweet out content. So tweets, pictures, videos with certain thresholds are met. Those thresholds may be warnings. They may be when you hit 90 degrees. They may be when you get a certain amount of rain or a certain strength wind gust. I mean, it is insane what they are going to do with this marriage with Watson from IBM. So,
yeah,
as you might know, a lot of the strategy behind digital weather coverage, at least on a local level, is to really make sure you're on top of milestones that might be happening. So 90 degrees is one here in the Northeast. 3 days of 90 for a heat wave, or an inch of rain, whatever, strong wind gusts. This update to one of their products is going to allow you to do that automatically. And not only is it automatic, but you can put video as the default post option. And video is what does the best on a number of platforms. So that's going to be automatic if you subscribe to one of those products. So that may be one of the success stories of the IBM Watson marriage.
That's great. Yeah, please tell me more of those stories, because
Well, it's great for some people.
Well, yeah. But I think in the end, it's great. Has a whole good instead of net good, net bad. Tyler, you put in a tweet in here from CSN Chicago. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, this was sent out on Twitter yesterday at 11:21 p.m. I'm not sure when the game was, but it was a picture of a Chicago game, and there's a nasty lightning bolt in the background, and all the players are on the field, and there's some fans in the audience, but the stadium is mostly empty. Looks like a lightning storm within striking range, and they're still playing.
Yikes! That's all I have to say.
Do you know where this is?
It's Chicago, presumably. It's White Sox versus Yankees. I'm assuming, I don't know for sure, but I'm assuming there aren't many fans in the stands because it was probably on a rain delay because they tweeted this out really late. So I'm assuming the game was delayed at some point, but then they came back, and there were still storms in the area. Yeah, I saw. I can't pronounce his last name. Kevin K. He's at Texas Embassy. He's always on top of these weather event safety things. And
there's a couple of tweets.
Yeah,
did he respond? Oh yeah, I see that.
He responded, "It's been a busy week of MLB trying to get people killed."
What else happened?
I think there was probably another. It's pretty much always lightning. I feel like. I didn't see the other one.
Oh, that game wasn't Chicago. Oh my gosh. This isn't branching off. He tweeted last night a very nice image of this was in Chicago, and he has a range ring on the map around the stadium, and his range ring is set to 8 miles, and the number of strikes within that range in the last 16 minutes is double digits. It is probably at least 24.
Yikes.
And there were strikes based on an eyeball estimate. There were strikes 3, 4, 5 miles down the road from the stadium.
My gosh.
We use 10 miles in Bristol. So
yeah, you would have called this off way.
Oh my gosh. It would have been called way before that picture was taken. Once the strike hits the 10-mile range, it's over.
Yeah, well, you have meteorologists helping you, and you are one, so. I mean, they might have a meteorologist, but it's up to the team to get one. MLB does not give them one or require them to have one, so.
Well, the other challenge is you can't get a meteorologist and then say, "Oh, we still make the decision. You just advise us," because there's a conflict of interest there.
Yeah.
Obviously, money's at stake, but you have an unskilled person and you have a skilled person, and if you're going to hire a meteorologist, you got to listen to them.
They have to change the rule. That's the bottom line. They have to make it so that it's not the umpire making the call. It's the
umpires make the call either, because you could see lightning 50 miles away.
Heat lightning. Is that what you're talking about? Heat lightning?
Yes, I'm talking about heat lightning.
Yeah. Well, it's like I feel like we talk about this every week, and it's just the same old. They got to do something, but they never will. So moving on to our final tweet here from Capital Weather Gang. You can follow them at Capital Weather. Their tweet says, 5 years ago, a derecho struck and cut off power to 1 million DC area residents during its hottest stretch on record. So this was back in 2012 in late June. For those of you that don't know what a derecho is, it's basically a thunderstorm complex. It's a line. Usually it has a front line of thunderstorms that's really strong with very fast winds, and it travels a very far distance. There are a ton of analogies. One is a inland hurricane, which is a pretty bad analogy, if we're being honest. But basically it causes a lot of wind damage over a large area for an extended period of time. And it also has a lot of lightning with it. I was actually the reason I chose this tweet is because it's the anniversary, but I was actually in this derecho. I was back home in Maryland that summer, And I will never forget that. I was terrified out of my mind because there was so much lightning in Carroll County where I was. We actually didn't get that much wind. We got spared. But one interesting thing, Tyler, about this is that the Storm Prediction Center and everyone, I mean, pretty much all meteorologists didn't predict this to happen. Even like a few hours before it went through DC and Maryland, they had it in the Midwest, but they had it dying basically in the Appalachian Mountains. Someone tweeted out a Storm Prediction Center map of that day, and I'm pretty sure they were in like C thunderstorm. And then they overlaid the wind report map, and there were like, hundreds and hundreds of wind reports in just C thunderstorm, C text for the Storm Prediction Center. So we've come a long way, even from 5 years ago.
I didn't realize it was breaking one of the hottest stretches.
Yeah, double whammy there. Yeah. If you don't have power and it's really hot, that's a very, very bad combo. So that does it for trending in the Weatherverse this week. So we have an interesting interview here. It's different than anything I think that we've had on in the past, I guess, 2.5 years. We're joined by Dr. Melissa Burt. She's a research scientist at Colorado State. I give her full intro in the interview, so I won't talk too much about that. But we're talking about a thing called Science-A-Thon. This is something that scientists anywhere and everywhere can take part in on July 13th. So it's 2 weeks from Thursday. So 2 weeks from the day. And basically it's a initiative to get people talking about science, to get scientists telling the public what they do and what a real life scientist does. And they're also raising money for the Earth System Women's Network, which is really cool. And yeah, so you should check them out. It's scienceathon.org, or the organization Earth Science Women's Network. Tyler, you should consider doing this. I think you would like it, because all you have to do is sign up and then tweet kind of like 12. I think you have to tweet 12 pictures during your day about what you do before work, during work, and after work.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll get to that interview right now. And now I'm joined by Dr. Melissa Burt. She is a research scientist at Colorado State University studying Arctic sea ice and its interactions with clouds and radiation. Melissa got her bachelor's in meteorology from Millersville University in Pennsylvania. She got her master's and PhD from CSU, Colorado State, in atmospheric science. And she's currently an education and diversity manager at CSU in the College of Engineering and Department of Atmospheric Science. And she's also on the leadership board of Earth Science Women's Network. Wow, you're doing a lot. Melissa, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So we ask everyone that comes on the show, what sparked your interest in weather and atmospheric science?
So I think, like a lot of people, there's kind of this emotional connection that happens. And as a child, I don't know how much time we have here, but as a child, I used to be really scared of tornadoes. I grew up in Maryland, kind of close to the DC area.
Maryland, yeah.
And not that tornadoes typically happen in that area, but, for some reason it was a fear of mine. Mm-hmm. And one of the first numbers that I remembered at the time was this National Weather Service weather line. And I literally would call it every single day to say, do we have a tornado warning or do we not? And most of the time it always said, no, like there's no chance. Maybe
was it a real person on the end of it?
No, it was just a recorded message.
Thing? Okay, that's really cool.
But one time we did actually have a tornado warning in the area. A tornado didn't come through, but it kind of sparked my interest in wanting to learn more about why they happen and just that sort of thing. So in school, or at least in high school, I started doing a lot of projects around weather and climate, as many of us probably did do. And then I found out, meteorology is something that you can do as a major in undergrad, and I didn't really know what that encompassed, but it was just something that was interesting and intriguing. And I don't study tornadoes now, but it kind of really just got me interested in wanting to learn more and kind of building that curiosity.
That's really cool. And so then after you looked at Maryland, you went to Millersville, and then to Colorado State for your master's and PhD. And while you were getting your PhD, you were also doing a lot of education and outreach and diversity work, which is actually how we met. We met 3.5 years ago, I think. And I was an intern, and I'm going to tell a quick story because I was emailing my to-be and also current advisor about working with them. I had money from a program and I wanted to work with them, but I was getting no response back. And I found your email online and I emailed you and immediately responded, and you set everything up. I was part of the intern group here, part of the REU intern group here. And I swear, I probably wouldn't have met my girlfriend if you hadn't responded to that email, and I wouldn't be in the position I am now. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So what is it like working with so many different groups of people? You work with all different ages. You work with teachers. You work with students, people from different backgrounds. What does that work like, and why do you enjoy it?
You know, I think I enjoy it. One, specifically working with younger students in the K through 12 arena. I remember visiting this one school one time, and I heard this kid kind of in the side of the room say, you know, I really hate science. It's not fun. It's not something that I want to do. I don't get why we have this field trip activity today. And I kind of went up to him and I was like, why do you feel that way? And he's just like, it's boring. It just doesn't pique my interest. And so it happened to be on that day that we were visiting their school with the Little Shop of Physics, which is an outreach program in the physics department here at Colorado State University. And I just said, why don't you come over here and just do this little activity? And just to watch his eyes just get huge. And I was like, you know what you're doing? You're doing science. And he's like, really? And I said, yes, you know, this is something that can be exciting and it can be fun. And it's really about doing it. So I really think that story and numbers of other stories beyond that, just seeing how people can get excited by it and maybe not even know that that's what they're doing, but just kind of intriguing them and building their curiosity and wanting to ask more questions to figure out, you know, why is something happening in the way that it is. So I just really love to see people excited, to see people have an experience that really becomes life-changing for them. And I find that with my undergrad students. So as you mentioned, Dakota, I have this REU program in atmospheric science where students can come here and do research with us. And I really find that for some students, it can really be a life-changing experience. Maybe it's meeting your girlfriend, right? Or maybe it's just, you know, finding a research area that is really exciting to you and something that you want to pursue in the future. So I think just one, seeing that people are excited, two, giving people greater access to activities that they can do or things that are out there for them to do for the future are really kind of the biggest things that gets me excited about the work that I do.
That's awesome. Yeah. I enjoy those things too, but I've not done nearly as much as you have. So getting to the topic of the show here, we were both at the American Meteorological Society conference this, I guess past January. It was in New Orleans? No, Seattle. Oh my gosh, I get them mixed up. It was in Seattle. It was in Seattle. And we were at the banquet dinner, and all of a sudden I hear your name because you got an award at the banquet, which is a huge deal because they only have a few awards that they give out during that banquet. And your award was for your work in the Earth Science Women's Network. You're on the leadership board there. So tell me about all their work and what you do with them.
So I'll say I was accepting the award along with a couple other leadership board members on behalf of the Earth Science Women's Network, which is this very large community of women in the geosciences. And so just a couple of little facts about the Earth Science Women's Network. We were founded in 2002, and it kind of started as a very informal get-together of women in the field who just wanted to build community, have opportunities for professional development. And we've grown now to 2017. We're a nonprofit organization and the largest organization for women in the geosciences. And so originally we were founded to serve women in the earth sciences. And our mission has expanded to support both men and women across a wide area of STEM. Although our focus is still in the earth sciences, we kind of, that's the strength of our organization, but we want to make sure that we're doing something for all. And different examples about that are around doing professional training workshops for women and men at the AGU meeting. We have an online jobs board for anyone who's interested in learning more about earth science jobs that are happening or that are out there. We also have online resources for career development and an online discussion forum for women. But as you mentioned, the topic on hand is the Science-A-Thon. So Science-A-Thon is a fundraiser for the Earth Science Women's Network. And the mission of this event is to support the scientists of today and to welcome the scientists of tomorrow. It also is really just to raise awareness as to what we do as scientists, you know, so showcasing the many faces of science, the many ways that people do science, if you're in the lab, if you're in the field, if you're at your computer, just to give a variety of what people actually do as scientists. So the Science-A-Thon is this one-day celebration of science and scientists. From people, as I mentioned, from being in the lab to the field, from learning to teaching, from doing just routine tasks as, you know, typing at your computer or finding out different world discoveries. And the idea is that on July 13th, so that's in 2 weeks from now, participating scientists will share 12 photos over 12 hours on either Twitter or Instagram with certain hashtags. Either hashtag Science-A-Thon or hashtag Day of Science and whatever else people kind of come up with. But really just to get the word out is this is what a scientist looks like. This is what a scientist does. And it's still open. If you're interested in participating, you can either donate by going to scienceathon.org or you can sign up to be one of the scientists that is participating in the event. So we welcome people to register, to share their science, to support the Earth Science Women's Network, and to just have a good time, you know, just showcasing what you do.
Yeah, that's great. So again, it's scienceathon.org to register and find out all the things. It's July 13th, so 2 weeks from today, which is Thursday, June 29th. Yeah.
Oh, and I should say, you know, if July 13th doesn't work for you, if you're on an airplane or you're out doing something else, you can pick any other day. But we just asked, you know, share 12 photos over 12 hours and use those hashtags to participate.
Yeah, we got to get hashtag Science-A-Thon and hashtag Day of Science trending. That would be awesome. So it's a fundraiser. What will those funds be used? I guess you can donate to a particular scientist while they're tweeting and posting on Instagram. What will those funds be used?
But those funds will be used for the larger Earth Science Women's Network for us to continue to have professional development trainings for training workshops, just kind of different activities that we want to do across the country.
Gotcha. I was wondering if you could talk maybe, I know you.
Oh, and I should mention, sorry, that if you want to participate, you'll also get this wonderful custom T-shirt that says I Heart Science on the front.
That's awesome. I know you're kind of new to the Earth Science Women's Network, but at least on the leadership board. But I was wondering if you could talk about, like, more specifically, what are some of the events that you guys put on and some of the services you offer your members?
Okay, so for our members, or I guess I'll start off by saying broader than just the members, we have this online jobs board for anyone. So probably maybe 15 jobs per day get sent out to this online jobs board for anybody interested in the earth science. So that's one mechanism that's open to both men and women. We do professional training workshops at the American Geophysical Union meeting, excuse me, around career development, around navigating the NSF system, so the National Science Foundation system, how you can bring in more funding opportunities for you as a scientist. Yeah. We also just have social gatherings as well. We have a reception that's open to anyone who is in support of the Earth Science Women's Network that happens at AGU. But then I also say the community of us throughout the country. People have regional activities. For example, we started a book club here in Fort Collins, Colorado. That's awesome. Yeah. And we just met 2 days ago to kind of have our first meetup of this book club. So there's just a variety of events. And the biggest thing about ESWN is the community and all of us kind of together supporting each other, trying to see everybody move forward. And we're there to help. We're there to talk. We're there to listen and just to have, I guess, friends no matter where you go. So I really love being a part of the organization because of the community that it brings. It also brings a lot of mentorship as well. And, you know, many people have been where I've been. Yeah. And so it's good to kind of hear about their experiences, and we can either learn together or I can then lead or mentor somebody else in the future.
Yeah, that's great. In 30 seconds or less, why should someone participate in the Science-A-Thon?
Because it's fun. It's because we are supporting the science of today and really trying to welcome the scientists of tomorrow to tell them what we do, what we look like, and anybody can be a scientist.
Well said. Wow, that was really good.
Yes.
One last question. We ask this to everyone who comes on the show, so I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
What advice would you give to someone that's up and coming, trying to make it in science, maybe a grad student, maybe an undergrad student taking those hard math classes right now? What kind of advice would you give them?
In 30 seconds or less?
No, take as much time as you want.
You know, I guess I would say, I think it can definitely be hard. I'll say I struggled in undergrad with some of the math classes, with some of the science classes. And I really kind of went to talk to my advisor as a trusted person to kind of help mentor me through it. You know, one thing that she said to me, she said, you know, if you decide to leave meteorology, what is it that you're going to do? And I had to think about it. I was like, well, I'm not really a good artist, so I probably shouldn't major in art. I really don't want to do history, so I probably wouldn't do that either. So what would I do if I wasn't doing this? And I couldn't come up with anything. And so she goes, you know, at this point, then you may as well, you know, try to tough it out, find people that you can connect with and engage with, and together you all will be able to kind of move forward. And it might be a dark, hard time right now, but you'll be able to kind of flourish and get out of it. And I will say it was a struggle, but I feel like I made it, at least to this point.
And you made it, definitely. PhD made it.
And so, yeah, I think it's just to find a mentor. And you don't need just one mentor. I mean, you can have a mentor for a variety of different things. So you find the particular person that you need for the activity that it is that you're struggling with, I guess, if I can say in that manner. Find a mentor, talk to people, and don't be afraid to ask questions. I think it can be really intimidating that you're afraid to ask people questions, but I think it's really important because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so by asking people and just talking with others around you, I think it can be really helpful.
I really like that. That's unique advice, I think, for the show. We haven't had someone talk about like how important it is to have a group and to have people to look up to, because none of us would have made it without our peers and everything. So that's really great advice. Again, Science-A-Thon.org to learn more about Science-A-Thon. Follow them on Twitter at science_A_thon, and get those trending hashtags, hashtag Science-A-Thon and hashtag Day of Science on July 13th in 2 weeks. And also check out the Earth Science Women's Network page. I think that's their website. If not, just give them a Google and check them out. Really awesome group. Melissa, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And that wraps up our review with Science-A-Thon. We have a website that you can check out. It's scienceathon.org, correct, Dakota?
Yeah, that's correct. And it'll be in all of the descriptions of this podcast. If you're on iTunes, just scroll down in the description and you can find their website. It's a really cool idea. It's the first year they're doing it, so I'm hoping they can build off of this year and maybe it'll take off. I was thinking about tweeting at Bill Nye to see if he'll do it.
Thursday, July 13th, 2017.
Yeah, that's correct. And they plan to do it every year after that. So yeah, check it out if you haven't yet. But that's going to do it all for this week. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at the WX Junkies on Twitter. And we're also on Facebook. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or pretty much any podcast platform. And if you're listening right now, we would absolutely love it if you gave us a rating and or review. We love hearing from you. We love seeing what you think about the show. And we do take criticism sometimes and change what we do just to, if that's what you like. So please leave us a comment. We'd absolutely love it. Tyler, we have the next 3 weeks scheduled. What can we expect?
Yes, and if you listened last week, this is a different schedule. There was some conflicting information, some bad information in the system.
My bad.
Yeah. So next week we have Allie Keslick from the National Weather Service. That will be Thursday, July 6th. Can you believe it? July 6th at 8 p.m. And that reminds us, have a great 4th of July. That is next week. But then on Thursday, we do have Allie Kesslick. 2 weeks from now, we have Steve Fundero at 8 p.m. on July 13th. And 3 weeks from now, on July 20th, we have an undisclosed guest. And that guest is going to talk about drones and storms and all that good stuff that's becoming popular nowadays. So Allie next week, Steve 2 weeks from now, and someone else 3 weeks from now. That sounds like a good slate. On behalf of all of us, including Dakota and I, thank you for listening to this night's edition of the Weather Junkies, and we certainly hope that you'll join us right back here next week.
Cal, I gotta go, Julia. We got cows.